You are entering a safe space. Please take a moment to center yourself and allow every thought, worry, and care to fall away right now. Focus on taking deep breaths and allow yourself to feel the healing freedom that is waiting to be ignited within you. Welcome to the Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice podcast. This is your healing space, providing you with hope and inspiration as you become more connected to yourself. Your safe vessel, helping you move to a higher consciousness to reignite your voice and discover who you are destined to be really inside you. I am Isabel Draughon, your host. I am also an author, entrepreneur, and a life transformation and spiritual coach. Most importantly, I am a perpetual student of life, just like you. So let's explore together. Claim what is already inside you. Welcome to the Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice podcast. This is your healing space, your health and wellness podcast where we come together to talk about everything: humanity, self-development, healing, personal growth, consciousness, leadership, you name it. Anything that will allow you and help you to be your best version of yourself. That's what we talk about here on the Loud Whisper. And we get really deep. We get deep and talk about those topics where everybody else shies away from. Because I'm a firm believer that in order to really live an authentic life, in order to be successful in life and in anything that you do, you have to heal. It doesn't matter how much money you make. You know, a lot of people, we get confused with the fact that the more money we make, the more success or accolades that we get, we're able to just, live life successfully. But this is what I've learned. Even the people with a lot of money are not happy. And that is because they don't have money, or it's because they've not healed. Healing is so crucial. I'm a firm believer that the most important knowledge any human being should obtain is knowledge of self. You got to know who you are. So thank you for joining. If this is your first time, please subscribe. If not, share it. And I'm excited. I'm truly excited that you're here today. I'm excited again to have this conversation. Believe it or not, we're meeting again. Tracy Desjardins. Did I say that correct, Tracy?
That's close enough. I'll take it.
But say it. I always like, because I believe the sweetest sound to somebody's ear is their name and how it sounds. So please say it again so even the audience can hear it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you're in Canada, it's pronounced Desjardins.
Okay. Desjardins.
If you're in the United States, I often get Desjardins. So I'll take whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
Either way.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining me again. I did ask Tracy to join me because we talked about our first. If you've not listened to the podcast, go back to the other podcast prior to this and find it. I mean, the conversation was so seamless. It was deep, and we were able to really tap into, and we started talking about the inner child. And I think that it's really important for us to talk about the inner child so that people can understand what is the inner child, who is the inner child, if you want to say it that way, and why is it important for someone to understand their inner child. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about her bio. Tracy is National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach, a mind-eating coach, a fitness professional, and the international best-selling author of The Diet-Free Diva. Thank you so much for joining me today. It is such an honor and a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Isabel. I'm so excited to be here again for another powerful conversation together.
I am excited too. There's so much to dive into. We were talking about where do we want to start. You and I both like to flow. Let's start with this. What is the concept of inner child? Why is it important, to really tap into your inner child for your overall well-being? Why is this so important for us as people?
I love this. And I'm going to be transparent with the audience and say that I learned about this just a few years ago.
Okay.
of inner child. And there was a time in my life where I would have been like, that sounds way too woo woo for me.
Yeah.
Like, is this? I don't know what that is, but I'm going to keep on plugging over here and pushing. So, I love this, especially, discussions about this concept called inner child that is not woo-woo, by the way. It falls in line with something you said in the beginning of our interview, at the beginning of the show today. And you mentioned, and I actually wrote it down, topics that everyone shies away from. Well, this is one of them. Okay. So powerful. And then you mentioned how important it is to know who you are.
Yes.
And so that attaches to why we need to have a conversation around inner child. Now, I'm not an expert. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a therapist. I'm a normal chick that has been through some junk.
Right. Has been through life.
Yeah. And I love having real conversations with people. I work mainly with women. So if you find me speaking to women, it applies to men too, because I discuss this stuff with my husband all the time.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. So it does. Thank you for saying that, by the way. Yeah, we do. You and I talk to women. The work that we do, right, is with women, but this does apply to men too. So
yeah. So I'd like to share how, before I talk about like what the inner child really means and why it's important, I would like to say that if for people dialing in that have not heard our first episode, which hopefully everybody will go back and find that, I have a long history, a personal history where at the ginger age of 12, I started dieting because I was slightly overweight. Back in 1982, and this was the beginning. It launched let's say a secret battle with food and my body for the next 3 decades. Okay. And that's what I believe. That's what I learned. And I learned a lot about myself during that time. And I also left that 12-year-old little girl in the dark as I chased societal ideals to be thin, to fit in, regardless of what I was, the shape and size I was magically born to be. I was chasing something that was unrealistic for me for the most part. And it robbed me of a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of like the spiritual aspect of myself that was fine before I started chronically dieting. Okay. And I developed binge eating disorder and it was really horrible. And I'm on the other side of that. And I work in that space and I help women get through that. But part of my own therapy and healing, Isabel, is this was introduced to me by someone that I hired to work as my coach because I knew there was something I was missing in this war with myself.
Yeah.
And my own coach introduced me to this concept of this younger part of me that's asking for attention. Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Here we are, Isabel, you and I are adults, people listening in, adults at whatever age you're at. We all have a younger part of us that's still in there. Like I just turned 54 in May, and there are many aspects of me that are still 12, that are still younger than 12. Like there are aspects of the youthful Tracy that are sending me signals all the time. And I have learned to listen to her when she shows up. Now, here's where this inner child stuff is not woo-woo. Learning to recognize that we all have a younger part of us that oftentimes can get left behind in the quest for success and having it all and doing all the things and the push and the grind. That younger side of us tends to wave an invisible flag sometimes in life. And we just feel something. We feel something off. And we don't know what. Or a nudge. And I can tell you, I felt many, many nudges throughout the decades, but I didn't know what that was. I just knew that there was something uncomfortable that I didn't like. I didn't like this. And I was always numbing myself with sweets. I was always binge eating sugar. Sweets were my thing to go to, just calm and medicate and soothe and check out. And time again. And I start the next diet, all this stuff. It was crazy. But when I discovered that 12-year-old Tracy was still there, and she was also, by the way, she was pretty cool as is back then. She was confident. She believed in herself. She didn't fight with food. I created that afterwards when I started to buy into what society wanted. But
when you started editing yourself.
When I started editing myself. When I discovered that I can invoke the adult part of me now
Okay.
and connect with the younger part of me,
Yeah.
that that feels pretty good.
Mm. Just
We
you
can,
saying it feels really good.
yeah. Yeah, there's an aspect of
Mhm.
becoming our own inner, nurturing, loving parent voice to self.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if that sounds woo woo, I want to remind everybody I'm not woo woo. Not at all.
And I always say that too. Like people would say, because now I speak to organizations too about conscious leadership, and a lot of people are looking at me for years, and it's people said, Isabel, you do the woo-woo stuff. So this is what I'm saying, my sister. Let us do the woo-woo stuff because this is what we're here to do, is help people evolve, help people get in touch with who they were created to be. So society can name it whatever they want. Let it call the woo-woo. But I want to piggyback a little bit about what you talked about the inner child and how important that is. I'll give you an example. 2 weeks ago, my husband and I traveled and went to Cancun. So when I was there, man, I swam for 2 days straight. I have sunburn, my whole body. I'm surprised my face is not even healing. I have sunburn because I was sitting out. But going back to your point, I even said that in my newsletter this morning when I sent it out to my people. It's so crucial, the inner child, getting in touch with your inner child. It is so crucial. It is so important and it's vital. I'll tell you why. Especially a lot of us, I'll speak towards women, we abandon ourselves on our path, on our journey, right from the time we're little girls. Because obviously, I've talked about this before. Whoever's heard it on my podcast, I'm a firm believer we've been conditioned from the time we were little girls that we were brought here, we were created rather to serve. So naturally, a lot of us women, we put ourselves in the back burner and all we do is discover what everybody else is. So I say this to say, because like you, my inner child was abandoned years ago. And my adult, each time every year as I got older, my adult self was fighting for survival. So I never even knew about my inner child. I never got in contact with my inner child. But I say this to say it is so crucial and it's so important for all of us as humans to tap into that. When I was swimming, I swam for 2 days straight. Like every time when I woke up, I was in the pool. You know what that did to me? It awakened my inner child. The little girl inside of me awakened. I remember how I used to compete when I was in middle school swimming. I remember how it made me feel. And I can cry talking about it because then again, I've been able to tap into something that's me and that's my own that I had abandoned when I abandoned myself or when I was taught to abandon myself as a little girl. I abandoned that too. And as I was coming through this journey that we call life, I start to realize that what we do, we're so good at editing and abandoning ourselves. At, we're so good about trying to become someone else because we don't know who God created us in the first place. So, and I'm just sitting here, I'm like, gosh, this feels so good. It felt so good, like you were saying, the 12-year-old Tracy, to tap into something that's me and that's my own. And not because someone told me, and not because I read it, and not because society is telling me that I needed to be that. My own revelation, my own being, my own soul found its own joy by me tapping into that little girl. Because for the longest time, she's been on the driver's seat of my life. And that's why I've been in horrible relationships. I've had horrible relationships, whether it's friendships or whatever, even with me with being a people pleaser. But now what I've done is I've started really connecting with her. So she's on the passenger side. Now I'm on the driver's seat of my life. And now that I'm in the driver's seat of my life, I'm discovering myself
Mm.
because of tapping into that inner child. So thank you for sharing that. I just wanted to piggyback on that because that is so real. It happened to me just 2 weeks ago. And I talked about it this morning in my newsletter because I've been thinking about it every day. And every time when I meet someone, a woman, I'm like, what are you doing lately? What did you used to like? Because I'm understanding it gave me an extra nudge or an extra bandwidth of internal power and internal strength and me trusting myself again.
Oh, I love that. I just realized we have something else in common. Cancun is one of
What?
my favorite places.
Is it?
Our honeymoon there. I love Cancun.
Really?
You know, you said so many things. I took some notes on what you just said. You said we abandon ourselves in our past and we fight for survival.
Yeah.
You mentioned people pleasing.
Yes.
I always I discovered, like, what is this essence of? I still notice this lingering feeling of, Tracy, you're not enough. Tracy, you're not doing enough. You're not like, what is that? That is a not so good not benefit from our inner child in the background and ignoring the inner child. You also said words like, you mentioned something about the chase, and then you mentioned about now you're in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, Isabel, people listening in, I talk about that, the chase and being in the driver's seat.
Nice.
In my book, The Diet Free Diva.
Where can they get your book?
On Amazon. It's on my website, theholisticdivas.com. But it's so funny that you said that. And then you also described when you were swimming.
Yeah.
Full water in Cancun, it gets no better.
Yeah.
You remember how it made you feel.
I'm all about feeling.
I love it. And a lot of us don't know how to do that because and chasing. Because we've been editing everything that you said, bing, bang, boom, chasing and editing and people pleasing and ignoring ourselves. I mean, this is really fascinating. Now, I'd like to say that before I started dieting, the fabulous inner child that I was before I took on fighting with food is, and I'm still like this, is I love to laugh. I love to make people laugh. I like to shake things up.
Sometimes I even laugh when I don't think it's appropriate. I'm like, I didn't need to laugh. I just laugh.
Thank you for saying that.
Like, I just did it.
Well, yeah, I still do that. I used to get kicked out of the classroom in elementary school, sent to the principal's office because when class got boring, I'm starting little humor, like disruptions in the back of the room, and we're laughing. I used to get in trouble for laughing all the time, but I knew that was me, and I knew that God gave me that gift humor, to share with other people. So now I do that now, but I used to think I need to be quiet.
Yeah.
I need to not be so loud. I am loud, and I'm loud for good reasons. You know, God wants me to be loud to do the work that I'm doing now, to be loud.
For sure.
And, you know, I think with regards to, okay, well, tell me more about this inner child. Tell me how to find her. Like, what does that really mean? It involves two things, Isabel, and I know you're going to agree with this. One is self-acceptance. And self-compassion. And like learning a new language. I never knew anything about either one of those. And when we're taught to always edit and always please and always chase, we're not learning how to accept ourselves, especially the faults that we all have. And then this thing called self-compassion, when we have maybe caught on to, you got to keep pushing, you got to keep going, all the things, we learn to speak to ourselves in a harsh dialogue. And in my book, I talk about the two voices within. We have an inner critic, which is loud and booming.
And then you have that loud whisper that if you stay still enough, it'll remind you your self-worth. It will remind you to trust yourself. It is so still and powerful that it gives you comfort and understanding, but you have to sit in it long enough. And I'm going to add on to your two things. The number one thing that I always say, it starts with self-awareness. The day that I say to myself that I needed to do something different is the day that my life started changing. And I love what you said, and self-acceptance. Yeah. And it comes in self-acceptance is such a big umbrella, right? Just like Tracy's saying, it's about accepting yourself, who you are, wherever you are, right? No matter where you are. Just as you are right now at this moment, looking at your life and saying, this is where I've been. I may have not been the best doing this, or this has not been the best thing, but where I'm standing right now It's a new day. You know how people say, well, the sun rises in the morning and it sets in the evening. That's how I literally look at my life now every day. Every day when I wake up, God is giving me a blank page. Every day.
Mm.
Every day. So I may have not felt good yesterday, or I may have not been my best self or the best person. But the next day, when that sun is rising, and it literally is not even just rising, the sun, when they say the sun is rising, that's a new page. And what I want to encourage people is don't get too tied to your past. You got to let go of that season, because you have to use your past, let your past be your testimony. Let your past be the avenue to set you free.
Mm.
See, the thing about it is the reason why a lot of us, we don't even take the time to tap into the inner child. The pain that we feel is not the adult you feeling that pain. It's the little girl or the little boy inside of you feeling the pain because you either felt the rejection before, you didn't even know what it looked like. You know, I'm a child who I was born out of wedlock, grew up with my dad's family, amazing. They love me. My mom loves me. But I always say this, and I tell you what, even my nieces and nephew, I am so close with them because they kind of grew up the way I did. They were born the way I was born. People don't understand the magnitude of abandonment, what abandonment does to a human being. And for a lot of people who have been rejected or abandoned from the time they were a little girl, like me, I carried that through everything in my life, work, relationships, and that turned me into a people pleaser. So I really want to tell you this, the best thing you could ever do for yourself right now is to look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? My life has pretty been messed up, however you want to look at it. But today's a new day for you to start again. Today is the day that you can, especially for us women, really, especially for society right now. People are in survival mode. When you're in survival mode, your emotions shut off. You don't have time to have emotions. And that's why society doesn't like to hear about feeling. People talk about mindset. I totally agree. The mind is a powerful tool. I teach people about the heart set. Your mind will never comprehend what your heart knows. Ever. Ever. Your subconscious mind is your heart.
So good. So good. Did you see me writing? I'm taking notes.
I see you're writing, Tracy.
I can't, because I'm not going to remember. If I don't write it down, I'm not going to. I want to reflect on some of this stuff. And
let's go. Let's dive in.
First of all, when anybody listening in, because I've been one of these people, just accept yourself, self-acceptance.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be clear that accepting yourself doesn't mean that you have to like everything that exists right now. We're not saying you have to like everything that's going on for you and with you and about you. There's a difference. We're not asking you to give up on all these things, but it starts with acceptance. And it's okay not to like certain things. I've got certain things about my personality. I've got certain things about my body that I don't really care for, but that doesn't mean that I can't just accept what is. By the way, you also said, let go of the season. I'd like to, of our past, right? I'd like to say that this was such an epiphany to me, and I don't know why. I was the only one that was carrying around junk. And in my book, I talk about the childhood backpack.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Childhood backpack.
I actually made that term up. I'm kind of proud of it.
That's really good. That's extremely good.
I was carrying around a childhood backpack that was stuffed with all of these limiting beliefs and criticisms and people pleasing. I had my own splash of a certain type of abandonment we could go down that road, but all of that is chock full of challenges and heavy stuff. And that backpack is heavy. We all have a backpack.
We all have it.
So having said that, we can kind of step into this zone where we're not alone with our junk.
No.
You talked about there's no time for emotions and feeling, right? We were also taught. Now, I was born in 1970, okay? And, you know,
I'm 75, so we're the same, in the same bracket.
Same thing. We were eating Captain Crunch for breakfast, Pop-Tarts for dessert.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
So, like our parents, they weren't taught sit with your feelings and tell me about but they didn't know how to do that. And that's
Mm-mm.
I had to do a lot of work around that. Like they didn't know how to show me those tools. I learned them later, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I help people, especially anybody listening in, where if you struggle with emotional eating and difficulty feeling feelings and you use food to soothe and numb, and I work in that space, and I'm sharing with Isabel a link to my emotional eating rescue meditation where I can help you get onto the other side of riding that wave so you're not using food to impulsively cope and numb with life's stressors. A lot of people do that, and I created something I'm so proud of, to help with that. um, I'd like to share an example, Isabel, of
Okay.
something I noticed. This is like a third grade example of how we can tap into our inner child, how we can
Okay.
fade our adult voice and tap
Mhm.
into that inner child. This is a really great example. And this is so great. I was at a family gathering in New Hampshire. This was a number of years, I'd say probably about 4 years ago. And right about that time, I was really studying inner child. I was studying emotions and feelings, and we're at a picnic. And one of the family members, younger than me, had a baby. And she also had a
Mm.
3-year-old little girl.
Okay.
3-year-old little girl, she was more mature. She was more like 5. And I was really impressed by her. She was so charming and cute. And she ran around and played all day long. And she was so cute.
Mm-hmm.
All got a kick out of watching her, where there was a little boy that she was playing with all day long. And all of a sudden it came time for dinner. So we're all sitting at these big tables and everything. And the little girl wanted the little boy to
Mm-hmm.
play ball with her.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he just said, I don't want to play with you anymore. Like he just was like, no, I'm done. I'm tired, whatever. Well, she had a meltdown.
Yeah.
Finally, we were all waiting for her to have a meltdown because she was go, 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 so cute all day long. And the mom sitting there holding the baby just watched her just start to just cry. She just went down on
Yeah.
the patio. She's crying. The mom, and I'm sitting 2 seats down from her. I'm watching this whole thing. The mom
Okay.
gets up with
Mm-hmm.
baby. She goes and she kneels down and starts talking to her little 3-year-old and said, honey, I know you're frustrated. And she's wailing.
Yeah.
I know you're frustrated. I know you wanted to play ball and he doesn't want to play ball right now. How about if we go over to the swing and I'll push you on the swing for a little bit? She stood up. I heard the mother say,
Yeah.
oh, you're frustrated. I know you feel hurt by I wanted to go over there and sit down next to the mom and like take some of that
Right,
in.
right, for her to talk to you, like, talk to me too, speak to me.
No coincidence that I was reading on evoking adult voice, and we can
Mm.
talk to ourselves in a
Yeah.
nurturing way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I use that as an example
Mm-hmm.
because we have the ability to invoke, to recognize the critic, but also invoke that encouraging, nurturing voice that we all have
Mm-hmm.
in our adult wisdom.
And
It's just, it's difficult to tap into that.
yeah.
First step is noticing those thoughts. And I think that you shared something about that. You
Yeah.
help people notice what's going on in our mind and our heart.
Yeah, and I love that you brought that up because my youngest son he would say to me, "You talk to yourself a lot, Mom. Why are you always talking to yourself?" What he didn't realize is I was talking to my inner child.
Mm.
Because when that critic, that sabotage, right? I'm ruminating, saying everything that I think I'm not worthy, I'm not this and this and this. The thing about it is that we don't realize by the time something comes out of our mouth, we've thought it, we've felt it. And the moment you feel something, you become it. So even by the time we say it in the mouth, by the time you say whatever you're saying about yourself, you're just solidifying it, but you're already feeling it. So I started that inner child when I'm hearing the sabotage, when I'm that critic. So I start talking different. You'll be okay.
Mm.
Yeah. I don't repeat what comes into my head, what that inner critic says. I do not repeat that because whatever you say is what you become.
Mm.
So by the time it comes out of my mouth, I won't even tell somebody, oh my God, I don't feel worthy. I don't even do that anymore. So even when I think it, because automatically when you think it, when it comes, your mind is ruminating, the self-critic, you're sabotaging yourself.
Yeah.
By that time, It's coming through your body. Let's not forget, just as you will talk about how important it is, your body keeps score. Like, you guys have to read that book. Like, everything that you're thinking and feeling moves through your body. So the moment you think it, right, then you start feeling it. It's a wrap. The only way I could make that change was not repeat what I was feeling, but then say what I needed to feel.
Mm.
So I would talk to the inner child. No, you're so worthy. So I'm walking in the kitchen. Yeah, you're worthy. Oh my God, you're so cute. Oh my God, yeah, you'll be fine. And then I got to a point where, just like everybody else, I'm human. I'll set a goal. And then if I don't do what I said I was going to do, I literally in the morning, I would talk to the inner child. Man, my apologies. I didn't get to do that. I know you were supposed to achieve that. So I love your example because I do have those conversations, and it has been extremely healing for me, because we're all experiencing this not because we just made it up, but this is the conditioning that we've had from the time we're little. Everybody has their own thing, how they grew up, whether it's rejection, or then you have some people like my clients. All they want to do is achieve. That's amazing, right? We all want to be successful, but they only achieve in one aspect of their life because their relationships are falling apart, because they're identifying themselves, depending on the household that you grew up in. If it was a household where you had to be successful, make sure you get all the A's, make sure you do this. We're thinking we're raising healthy children by telling them over and over again that they need to be on top of everything. Absolutely not. We're not. What
Isabel,
we're doing is that we are creating human beings in this that who are now live in this society that we live in, and people are even taking their lives because it's hard to be human nowadays. If you're not telling people what you're achieving, if you're not telling people how successful you are, if you don't even feel successful, people lock themselves in. They don't even want to go outside because the world no longer cares about you, Tracy. They care about what Tracy does. And that's the movement and the shift that I would love to change on my podcast. How about you get to know Tracy, right? So now you have to imagine, with all of this social media, at least we didn't even have social media. So the children now, the comparison, I mean, it's getting out of control. I come from a culture that you are valued by your accolades. You are valued by the degree. Oh my goodness, if you go to a good school, everybody's going to know about that. Everyone is going to know. You have to get grades. You have to do this, but the people are not realizing it's not human. That's not the essence of who we are as human beings. And that's why a lot of people struggle, because when you were born, you are innocent. The world is your landscape. We're jumping, we're running, we're doing everything. Like a kid, they will touch the fire, right? But then we're told, nope, 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 no, which I find quite fascinating. When you're a child and you start crawling, everybody celebrates you, right? Then when you start walking, you get up and walk. 2 steps, you fall down. What do people say? Oh my God, Tracy, you can do it. When you're a baby, get up, come on. When you're a young girl, 2 more steps, because everyone wants to see you walk. I don't know where it shifts in society, where we're no longer celebrated. When we're little, now we're told this is who you need to become. But when we were going from crawling to walking, everybody was celebrating you.
and you know what I love about that? What you just said about crawling to walking. There was no assessment of where you're doing it good enough. You actually you got up and you're walking.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that you're saying, you said so much there. Where you brought me to in my own thoughts is, I think, a wonderful question for all of us to start asking: what makes us good enough?
That's a
This
good
is a new
question.
language. I think in this realm of acceptance and self-compassion, we already are good enough.
You are good enough.
When I was in elementary school, Isabel, I was like a B student. I wasn't like school. A B student was there. There was a girl in the class that was straight A's.
Yeah.
But she got a B on a test one day. And this was like, I'm talking like third or fourth grade. But I remember because I like to laugh, remember? And I straight A's, like it just wasn't who I was. But I'm looking at this quiet, very intelligent, smart girl. She got a B. She's bawling. I'm going, what the heck?
Yeah.
Wow. Like, why put that pressure? Girl, come on. Like, it doesn't have to be this way. But we have a reference as children based on what we're taught, like expectations coming from people that just wanted us to be safe. And safe often meant successful. You got to get all A's. What's this B? You get a C, something's really wrong. You need this psychiatrist or something. Wait a minute. No, I just don't like math.
Yeah.
At what point? It's like, what makes us good enough? And developing a new language. And, we're doing our best.
Just like you're saying, like that little girl, I hope this is not her now, but this is what's happened. And this is my clientele and people that I talk to, whether it's men or women. She's lived her life. Now that's her criteria right there. That's her measuring stick. So all her life in everything that she does, she has to do it like an A student. Imagine the pressure. It's not even perfection. It's not even humanly possible. And that's why I tell people perfectionism is really a response to trauma. When somebody comes to me and say, I am perfect, I don't get excited by that. I actually am like, oh, I feel really bad because you're just responding to trauma. You have been conditioned to think that you have to perform at this level 24/7 of your humanhood, I guess I would call it, 24/7. And that's what they do. But here's what happens. That's how you show up in every area of your life. Like me, I felt abandoned. That's rejected. That's how I showed up in every area of my life, from my jobs to my personal relationships, constantly wanting people to affirm me, constantly wanting people to say, I am good enough. You know how I know I'm good enough and how I know every human being is good enough? I actually posted this yesterday. I said, I just stopped by. This was the quote. I just stopped by to remind you that you are more than enough. And don't ever let anyone convince you different, because there will never be anyone like you and there is no one like you. And I'm such a believer in that. The reason why I now know I'm good enough is because every human being that God created has a purpose. Every human being has a purpose. The problem is we've given our rights to society to tell us who we are.
And what's enough.
And what's enough.
Yeah.
And what's enough.
You mentioned the word social media, and I'd just like to share everybody listening in. I'm having a week where I'm giving social media a shot with my business. I'm giving it a shot. I'm getting some coaching, doing these things. I don't like it.
Yeah.
And I've been really grouchy. I even developed pain in my neck. I had to go get my neck work done. What is going on?
Yeah.
So I had to tap in. I used the wiser side of myself, Tracy, what's going on? Well, we're not really enjoying the social media. We're trying. We don't have to stick with this if we don't want to, but what are we learning in the process?
Yeah.
Talking to my younger self in a way like, we're trying, we're learning. We don't have to love it. If we decide we don't like this, we can do something else. I want to give the audience an example of connecting with that inner child from a nurturing voice perspective, because social media, it can really feel poisonous sometimes.
It is very poisonous.
Even the people that look like they're rocking their best lives and their lives and their highlight reels, they're still wondering, am I good enough?
Yeah.
They're comparing them to other people.
To other people.
So it's kind of like, we're all in this together. We're all wearing that backpack. It's chock full. And so we all have an opportunity to ask ourselves, well, what makes me good enough? I am good enough.
And I think the $1 million question is to ask yourself, what makes me me?
Yeah. Love it.
What makes me me? Even when I started doing my speaking, right? When I was a fresh speaker doing what I was doing, man, I was comparing myself to everybody. Just comparing. And When I got on stage and I would try to show up how everybody else told me I needed to show up, I had a harder time. But when I had a come to Jesus moment and really God had a conversation with me because of the work that I do, I cannot, and I have to be authentic, like be for real.
Yeah.
Right? I had to be myself. And I'm going to tell you something, Tracy. It's the easiest thing I can do right now. I don't need to follow anybody's rules of how I need to sit on stage and talk to people because this is a gift. I didn't learn this. This is a gift. So what I needed to do was tap into myself to excavate and sharpen that gift that God gave me. See, a lot of us are out here chasing things that society is telling us that we need to be. But when you stop tapping into your gift, no one can ever take that away from you. No one. You know, and it just goes back to what we're talking about. All this stems from the inner child. I got to this point, and it's a journey, still working through it. I have days when I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Then I have days when all day I'm walking around the house and talking to myself, like my son would say, because that's a day that my inner child is not, I'm not feeling good about myself. But it doesn't matter I said it earlier, how much money you make, where you work, what you own, what you do. I think the best gift you could ever give yourself is to know who you are. That's the best gift you can ever give yourself. And also to have the self-acceptance, because with self-acceptance comes accountability. And that's what a lot of people don't want to deal with, is the accountability. You have to be accountable to yourself, accountable to the little child. It's not a great feeling. It's a little bit confusing at times, but the core, it's like a seed. You can't get an orange from a mango seed. You can't get a mango without that seed. So that little child inside of you is the seed. You are the seed. You got to water it, right? You have to water it. You got to do whatever you do, manure, just like you do your plants. I mean, I think about life that way. I think about life like nature. I think about life, even animals. I always equate life to animals or nature. You have to water the seed little by little, little by little, like Tracy from 12, right? That's how you start discovering yourself. But you have to take the time to do that. The thing is, we live in a world where I'm so glad a lot of people are having more conversations about the inner child and healing. But we live in a world now where we're running from that because we keep chasing these things that we can't even attain. I find it quite fascinating that we were all chasing things that we don't have any control over but ourselves. How crazy is that?
It is crazy. And this is so loaded and fun, isn't it?
It's so loaded and fun.
And
so loaded, girlfriend.
As I'm listening to you, I want to just validate anybody hearing this episode. If this feels overwhelming, like it kind of is. And I have to share one tip. If everybody's like, okay, I get it, that sounds great, but I just like, well, where do you get started? Like, how do you get started?
Yeah, for sure.
I have something. I have one tip that can get the dial moving, and it's super simple. And I work with my one-on-one clients. We talk about this mindset stuff, and I ask them to simply start noticing their thoughts.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree, Isabel?
I totally agree. Notice your thoughts. Actually, if I can really take it a notch higher, just breathe. Learn to breathe. Breathing will start connecting you to yourself. It'll help you, like Tracy said, notice your thoughts, because most of us don't even breathe. We think we're breathing, but we're not.
Yeah.
So that allows you, she's right, your thoughts, right? Whatever you think, you start to feel. However you feel is how you show up in life. I mentioned earlier, that little girl inside of me was feeling rejection, abandonment, and all that. And trust me, I showed up like that until my 40s.
I get it. You know what I realized, Isabel? I went through most of my life not breathing.
Me too. No, for real. Me too. I had one coach, Ron Stocks. He's the one that actually taught me how to do that. He said, you were not breathing. I'm like,
Yeah,
are you kidding me? He
right.
said, yeah, we
I-
stopped.
yeah, up here. I was
Yeah.
breathing from my chest. My stomach was clenched all the time. I had
Yes.
to learn how to breathe as well. In fact, if
Yeah.
anybody's like, okay, I can't breathe either. How do you breathe? Like, I don't know if I'm breathing right.
Yeah.
My emotional eating rescue meditation that's in the link in the show.
Mm. Give him a little example of how to breathe.
I help you through that.
I'll let you do that. I can do it, but I'll let you do it.
Well, this is also so simple, and this is how I do it. And I know it gets complicated. I'm not a breathing coach. Okay, I'm just a chick that kind of figured out what sort of works,
Okay.
especially when we're trying not to.
Tracy, can
Yeah,
I interrupt? Stop
yeah.
telling people what you're not. You are everything and more. And that's why you're sitting here on this podcast. You're telling them, let me tell you something. Life is not about the knowledge, people getting all this knowledge and having all this certification. I'm going to tell you what the most powerful, I teach from my life experiences. Everything else I gain is a tool adding to my life experiences of what I teach. So no, you don't need to be a breathing coach. This is what you do. You know how to do it.
Love it.
Teach these people how to do it. Not everybody has to have some form of certificate to be validated. There are a lot of people who have a lot of certificates. They don't have the heart, the might, the resilience, or the courage like you to want other people to do better and be better. They're all about the money. So own it, sister. Own it. Yes, you know how to teach how to breathe.
Do you
Teach
know
them.
why I picked up this pen? This is
Mm-hmm.
a pen. Okay, with when you said that, this is my reminder that I'm enough.
Yes.
Ridiculous pen that, by the way, is something that my 12-year-old would have loved. How great is it that this came
Mm-hmm.
on the scene here? But to answer your question about the breathing, there's something that I do called, I guess it's a form of box breathing, but I fill my lungs to
Mm-hmm.
capacity and I
Yep.
slowly count to 4
Yep.
and I hold
Yep.
just briefly and then I breathe out,
Yes.
slowly counting to 4.
Yep. That is box breathing for sure. Mm-hmm.
So box breathing, up, over, down,
Yeah.
and back. You can envision that if you want, but
Yeah.
dial back to keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
Count to 4 and fill your lungs to
Mm-hmm.
capacity, then pause, wait just a second,
Mm-hmm. And then release it.
and release. That's
Yeah.
part of what we do in the emotional eating rescue meditation, because when we are stress eating, we're anything but breathing.
Yeah. Oh no, we're not. I mean, forget even we're eating. When we're walking around, we're not breathing. We're not breathing at all. And we're wondering what's going on in my body, what's going on. And yeah, it's really vital. It's vital for people to tap into that inner child. It's so freeing. It is scary. I'm not going to lie to you. It is a journey because you're going to escalate a lot of things, as you know, Tracy. But like she said, watch your thoughts. Breathe. First, learn how to breathe, because breathing within itself, first of all, it clears your mind and then it connects you to your soul, your heart. I'm a heart-centered person, and I believe that the heart knows the truth of who we are. I'm a firm believer that all our important decisions are made in the heart, in our soul. I do believe our soul is our mind, our will, and our emotions.
Mm.
Yeah, put together. So I really know we talk about the mind a lot, and we're in a world where everything is go, 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 go. But if you really, really, really tap into your heart, that's the truth. That's you, and most of us, we don't, because we have been conditioned to be in class and we think the only way to achieve anything is through the mind. The mind has to say it. The mind is a powerful thing. But even for those, whether you read the Bible or not, it even says it. Your subconscious mind, that's your heart. That's everything.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much. You made me think of something back to when you gave the example, when you talk about mind and heart,
Yeah.
and you were speaking on stage and you were told, well, you got to do it this way, Isabel. And you're like, I got to be me. I got to show
Me.
up. That's
Yeah.
me. And I want everyone to know that when I was writing my book and I
Yeah.
had an editor and a coach to help me and all this stuff, I was told to follow a process. Tracy, you got to do it this way.
Yeah.
There was something that didn't feel like me, and I wasn't happy with something that was happening. And I just I did my own thing, submitted it. Well, they came back with, you're going to have to pay more money. You jumped the tracks of what we told you to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I paid the money and I I got back on the track, but, and it's the last chapter of my book. Okay. I was conflicted on something, and I did it my way.
Yeah.
I did it my way,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that I did.
Mm-hmm.
But I also tapped into that younger part of me that um, I broke rules from time to time when it felt right. And it
Yeah.
like, frustrated the teachers, but that's who I was, and it's who I still am. And you and I are similar in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I'm on stage, I've tried this before too. Like, don't give me a structure, because
Yeah.
I sound
Woo.
like a robot. There's a podcast when you hear the
Yeah.
person reading on
Oh
the,
my goodness. Oh my goodness. I like talking to people, not at people.
yeah, but
There's a
people,
difference for me. There's a huge difference. Even when I do my talks, I tell them upfront in the beginning, this is conversational. I don't like talking at people. I like talking to people because I want people to really come to their own knowing, to really come to their own revelations, right? Yeah.
oh, I love it. That's a really great point.
Yeah. Yeah.
People crave relatable people. They want authenticity. The thing that I hear a lot from people is, Tracy, you're so relatable. You're so authentic. You're so
Mhm.
trustworthy.
Mhm.
And people that, I think that people just want to know that you're real. Like, you're clearly real. I'm
Mhm.
clearly real. And we're showing up in
Mhm.
raw form. And that's what inspires people. I mean, that's what inspires me when I listen to people, when I listen to podcasts and take
Mhm.
courses, I can tell when something's disingenuous and
Yeah. 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 And just like you said, people want real, right? You can only be real to certain. And here is the thing, like, wouldn't life just be so much easier if people can just be? Just let people be. This thing of trying to make somebody be this way, think this way, act that way, do it this way, let people be. It will set you free. Let people be. And when you do that, you have enough time and space to really tap into yourself. But it's crucial. Like, this is so loaded. This conversation is
I
like,
know.
we could talk like for hours. It is so loaded, but we're going back to the part again. So this is the inner child. And this is why it's important to work with the inner child, because it's not only just your inner child, the adult is dealing with the inner child. I give an example, Tracy, with people all the time. So picture this. You're having a discussion with someone, you're having an argument with someone, whatever you want to call it, and you lash out, okay? You lash out. Then when you walk away, you say to yourself, man, I know I've done this before. I didn't have to react that way. Dang, why did I react that way? Guess what? It was not the adult you reacting that way. It was never the adult Isabel reacting that way. It was the little girl inside of me, because the moment anything feels funny, we don't realize it is not the adult us that shows up. It's the little girl or the little boy inside of you that shows up first. So if you're a person who's been rejected, if you're a person who's been abandoned, if you're in a situation where you're feeling rejected or abandoned, it's not your adult self that's showing up in that situation when you're responding and reacting and doing all that, unless you've gone through the healing. And that's why they call it wisdom, right? You have people who have knowledge, right? But knowledge without conversion is nothing, right? So
I
people are
love it.
getting,
Yeah.
yeah, knowledge, with people are getting all this knowledge, but you got to convert it. Convert it becomes wisdom. And that's when you find when people are older, they understand how to react and all that kind. Oh my God, they're so mellow. No, they've dealt with their inner child. That's why they're mellow. Because
I
if not, he and she is showing up in every area of your life, marriage, in everything, because that was happening to me. So the way I was overreacting, and then I'm walking away like, why did I overreact? It was not the adult Isabel. It was that inner child, the little girl inside of me that will show up when it comes to take care, to be, when it's time to be safe. The first person that shows up in your life is your inner child.
I'd like to add, for anybody listening in that hasn't gone through abandonment or rejection, can I add another
Sure, sure.
in
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
If you have a reference of dealing with a lot of criticism,
Yes.
and a lot of my clients come from that.
Yeah.
Their expectations of self are so high that they can't breathe, and that they learn that. So I'd like to add that in, because um, I think it's important that we all have a story.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that I
Everybody has a story.
think we talked about that in our other episode, frankly. And that in that childhood backpack, if you come from a reference of I have to be getting straight A's and I have to be perfect, that heightened criticism as an adult, that's draining.
Yeah.
It's draining. Uh,
Yeah.
so this
That's
is
the hamster wheel.
yes.
That's how you find a lot of people on the hamster wheel
Yeah.
because of that. Yeah, wanting
I've
to
been
be
on that hamster
perfect.
wheel. It's not fun.
No,
It's
it's not
not
fun.
fun.
Yeah, wanting to be perfect, wanting to be no, it's not fun at all. But I like what you said, so I hope people like really were listening. Like, pay attention to your thoughts. This is really crucial, and I know people hear it, different podcasts. I just my prayer is for us to move from being human doers to being human beings, because I think we're not living. We're not living. Everybody's doing. Doing. You're judged by what you do. You are loved by what you do. You're loved by how much you do. It's everything about doing. And I keep emphasizing this. And that is why this generation is like, nah, some of them can't even take people, not even just this generation. A lot of people can't take it anymore. Because we're all becoming invisible. Our humanity has become invisible. And I find that it's sad. It's really, really sad to me because there's so much to live. There's so much. God has given us so much, but we're not living. We're just doing. We're constantly editing who we are because we don't know who we were created to be in the first place. Some of us are staying in our season of the past. We can never let that go. And I try to explain to people, don't let your past hold you hostage. Use that past as a testimony to set yourself free. Use that past to heal that inner girl or boy inside of you. Use it. For me, I've been through the mental, physical, sexual abuse. I've been through all of those. Trust me, they had me down. I tell people all the time, my name used to be Isabel. I'm ashamed drawn because I used to be ashamed of who I was. I never understood that I would take that of which that was done to me that I didn't ask for and take it and create something powerful out of it so it no longer controls me. Use it. That's where self-acceptance comes in. Me looking at myself in the mirror saying, yeah, I've been physically abused, I've been emotionally abused, and I've been sexually abused. But it doesn't define me because God didn't create me to be that. Those are just the things that I went through as I'm going through my journey. So with what you said, with the self-acceptance and the compassion, I tell people, you do have to have compassion for yourself. We tend to, especially as women, we tend to have compassion for everyone else but ourselves. Without compassion, you cannot heal.
But we're going to change that from this conversation.
Yeah. This is powerful. Just the energy within it.
Yeah. You know what? You're the first podcast host where I've discussed inner child with like this. So this has been great. I haven't talked about it to this extent. I mean, at different bits.
At different bits.
Yeah. But
that's amazing.
This has really been wonderful. I'm hoping that your audience really comes away with some personal ahas, like just with starting to notice thoughts.
Yeah, just the thoughts, like you said, the self-acceptance, the compassion, like Tracy was talking about. Yeah. Like this stuff is real.
The new language that can be learned.
It is a new language. A lot of us have to have a new language. It's hard, but we all have to, how we see ourselves, how we view ourselves. It's crucial. We have to teach ourselves, as you're talking about the language, because the reason why we have the trauma is because all our lives we've been living outside of ourselves. We've been trying to perfect. I always say we try to perfect, especially women, especially me. I did that. We try to perfect a human being that does not exist. So that's why you're constantly editing yourself, because each time people want you to look this way, want to do this way, and you keep on trying to edit this human being that does not exist. The person that you're looking for is really inside of you, but they're just covered with piles and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of things. So You do yourself a favor, give yourself permission. And that's what I love, the fact that people in a world where people can share their stories. You don't have to share your story with the world. But when we share our stories, we give other people permission to share theirs. And when you start to tell your story, it's then your healing starts. For me, that's when my healing started, because that's when I eradicated shame. And when you remove shame out of your life, man, stuff starts moving. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
This is good stuff. Good stuff. So I'm going to leave the floor for you with the last words.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Last words.
Just take your time and breathe. We're not rushing. Those that are listening, we're breathing here. So breathe right with us.
I'd like the listeners to be able to walk away with some concrete, doable, reasonable steps to understand the concept of the inner child. So I actually wrote down before our episode here.
Okay.
5 steps that I use that have helped me tap into my inner child. I'm just going to kind of rattle these off. Step number 1, recognize the inner dialogue. In other words, notice your thoughts without judgment. Number 1, and we talked about this. Number 2, accept yourself in the moment and validate yourself.
Yeah.
Number 3, step into your inner, loving, nurturing parent shoes. And say a few things to yourself. Number 4, connect with your higher power. Mine is God.
Yes.
5, have a conversation with self-compassion that will help you learn to attune to your needs. In other words, take best care of yourself.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I hope this podcast episode really served you guys. And I'm going to continue having these conversations. Tracy is going to continue having these conversations. I will definitely put her book when the podcast comes out. Just please do yourself a favor. I do want to say something particularly for women. We have such a bad habit, or tendency rather, of not investing in ourselves. So get the book. Get the book. We take care, we take care of everybody else's needs. We fulfill everybody else's needs, but then we put ourselves last. This is the year, before the year is up. Start today. Get Tracy's book. Just start with that. It's not $1 million. You can get it off of Amazon. Just the act of you getting the book, if you're not feeling good enough, will boost you somehow. Because you know what that does? It reminds you that you're taking care of yourself. And that's how self-love starts, actually. So do yourself a favor. Can you tell them the book really quick? But when the episode comes out, I will put it on there again.
Yeah, it's The Diet Free Diva. And my website is theholisticdivas.com. And the link to buy the book is right there on the first page. And that's how you can see who I am and the work that I do. And you can call with me. And also for free, the emotional eating rescue meditation will be provided in this episode as well. So that's for free. I share that with as many people as possible. Share it on, because we talk about the breathing, we talk about the thoughts, we talk about step 5, which is learning to have a conversation with yourself with compassion to figure out what you really need instead of food. That's what that last step is all about. But I'm honored. I'm so honored to be on your show.
I'm honored too.
I admire the work that you're doing in the world with the Loud Whisperer.
I admire you too. I am so honored. Again, this is her second time on the show. I am the one that's truly honored to have her in my space, for her to create the time to come in this space. We're just being ourselves and just sharing what we've learned through the journey. People say, you figured it out. No, I have not figured it out, guys. What's happening with me is that I've just learned how to deal with the stuff maybe before you have. But if I can offer each and every one of you something today, is to be gentle and kind with yourself. Just be gentle and kind with yourself. Those emotions that you have towards other people when they're hurting, I just ask that you reverse those and tune them in to yourself and see how that feels. Because we're so accustomed to wanting other people to make us feel good. What does it feel like to make yourself feel good? So do yourself a favor and have compassion and be gentle and kind with yourself. But as I mentioned earlier, I will have the links, book, Tracy, and we'll probably have another topic, and she'll be back again. She'll probably be at my conference. I'm going to have a conversation with her here. But anyway, other than that, thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. Please share with everyone else. And we will see you the next week. Thank you again, Tracy. Such an honor for you to be on this show.
Thank you, Isabel. Likewise.
Thank you for listening to the Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please be sure to subscribe so that you never miss a conversation. I would also be honored if you would consider leaving a positive rating and review on Apple Podcasts. As always, you can connect with me through the links in the description. Thanks again for listening. We're so glad you could join us today and look forward to supporting you on your greatest journey. Have a great day.